Hello everyone, the Crime Life channel is with you. In this video you will learn about the murder of Bonnie Lee Buckley on a May evening in 2001. A married couple, an imposing gray-haired 67-year-old iconic American actor Robert Blake and a pretty blonde went to dinner at the Italian restaurant Vitello's. After dinner, the couple left the restaurant and headed for the car. Robert told his wife, "Wait for me in the car. I forgot something at the restaurant." He left for just a couple of minutes, and when he came out, his wife, 44-year-old Bonnie Lee Buckley, was found fatally wounded in the passenger seat in his Dodge car parked around the corner of the restaurant. Blake ran to the restaurant for help. Vitello's co-owner Joe Restivo dialed 911. By the time the ambulance arrived, the woman was dead, shot in the head and shoulder. There were no witnesses. The police decided that it was very likely that the husband was involved in the tragedy. The murder weapon, an old 1944 German handgun without fingerprints, from which Bonnie was killed, was found in the trash can closest to the California restaurant. Robert Blake was shocked and inconsolable. He and Bonnie had an 11-month-old daughter, Rose Lenore Sophia. The identity of the deceased raised many questions, if only because her marriage to Blake was Bonnie's 10th marriage. When the police asked Robert, "Why did you come back to the restaurant?" he replied that he returned to the restaurant to pick up the gun left there and was not present at the shooting. According to him, he carried the gun in self-defense and in case someone threatened his wife. The acquaintance of the actor and Bonnie Lee Buckley took place in 1999 at a jazz club. Bonnie was a woman with a mysterious and dark past. At the age of 16, she ran away from home in New Jersey and began an independent life in New York. The girl entered the Barbizon College, which trained actresses and models. Episodes in several films, promotional shoots did not bring her the expected money. A pretty brown-eyed, brown-haired woman, height 168 centimeters. The nose is a little too long, but the smile is beautiful. So nothing special, like most young girls. I couldn't become a star. The day came when Bonnie had nothing to pay for the apartment. Leaving a failed modeling career, Miss Buckley quickly realized that she could benefit more from her appearance if she met wealthy men. One of these men turned out to be a Greek immigrant, Evangelos Paulakis, who offered her a marriage for a tidy sum so that he could obtain citizenship. After that, Bonnie filed for divorce. At the age of 21, she married her cousin Paul Gavrin and gave birth to a son and a daughter. After 5 years of marriage, Bonnie left her husband and children. After running away from her family, Bonnie began working in real estate, simultaneously placing ads in newspapers under the heading Lonely Hearts. After receiving a letter from a man, she sent him her candid photo. Getting acquainted, the lady smiled coquettishly and complained about financial difficulties. "You must understand that it is not easy for a beautiful young woman to live in New York. The men paid her rent and willingly gave her money." Soon Bonnie developed a certain scheme. By sending nude photos of herself to fans, she demanded the same photos from them. As soon as the cash flow stopped, photos of hapless lovers and blackmail were used. She wanted more and more money, and Bonnie began hunting for the rich and famous. "Being around celebrities," she once said, "makes you feel better than other people." The scope of her scams is amazing. Her network included Dean Martin, Frankie Valli, Gary Busey, and many of those who did not advertise an affair with a blonde. In her notebook were the phone numbers of Robert De Niro and Jimmy Swaggart. Bonnie realized that you can make a bigger jackpot if you get married officially and sue your spouse for part of the fortune. In this way, she saved up money for several houses in Memphis and a mansion in Los Angeles. Bonnie perfected her appearance, and wealth and connections gave her a pass into high Hollywood society. The swindler turned around to the fullest. She had about 30 fake identity cards alone, as well as attempts to write fake checks in the amount of $200,000. Often, the lady asked to send her money for travel expenses and rent, but after receiving cash, she disappeared. Bonnie received a probation sentence for her scams. In 1990, Buckley began stalking singer Jerry Lee Lewis. She followed him all over the country, attending concerts, became friends with his sister, and eventually ended up in his bed. In 1993, Bonnie gave birth to a daughter and began to claim that this was Jerry's child. The singer demanded a DNA test, which denied his paternity. But even Jerry Lee Lewis's sister somehow let slip that a settlement agreement had been reached between Bonnie and her brother on the non-disclosure of the secret of the birth to the general public. For a lot of money, of course. The baby, named Jerry Lee, was sent by an enterprising mother to her ex-husband Paul. I must say, Bonnie always regularly transferred money for children to her ex-spouse. Then Bonnie's attention was attracted by Christian Brando, the eldest son of actor Marlon Brando, who was behind bars at that moment for the murder of Doug Drollett's stepsister's boyfriend. Bonnie started writing passionate letters to him and sending him pictures of herself. After Christian's release from prison in 1996, they began a romantic relationship. In 1999, Bonnie became pregnant. Christian had already wanted to marry Bonnie, but then it turned out that at the same time as him, the blonde was dating Robert Blake. When a girl was born in June 2000, Bonnie named her Christian Shannon Brando and listed Christian as the father in metrics. After the trial, it turned out that Brando is not the baby's father. DNA analysis established Robert Blake's paternity. After establishing paternity, the child's name was legally changed to Rose Lenore Sophia Blake, and Robert Blake agreed to become Bonnie's 10th husband. He was determined. His daughter would have a father. Reluctantly, in November 2000, Blake married his fleeting crush and took Bonnie and her daughter to the guest house of his mansion. Why did she agree to become the wife of a middle-aged divorced actor? Bonnie was not getting any younger herself, and the prospect of becoming the legitimate wife of a Hollywood, albeit once a cult actor, warmed her pride. That's just that she didn't give up her dirty deeds, despite the fact that Blake asked for a clause in the marriage contract stating that his wife should not do anything illegal on the territory of his mansion. Bonnie was still putting Lonely Hearts ads in the newspapers. Just 6 months into their marriage, in May 2001, Bonnie was murdered. Robert Blake and his bodyguard Earl Caldwell were arrested in April 2002 on charges of conspiracy to murder. This threatened the elderly actor with the death penalty. Blake issued a statement. "It sounds absurd. I had a fortune of $25 million at that time. I could have hired someone to track her down and make her disappear without a trace. God forgive me. And I took her out to dinner and shot her." After a long trial and a year in prison, Robert Blake was released on $1.5 million bail. In 2005, Blake was acquitted, but the real killer was never found. For most of her life, Bonnie has been cheating on single men. There are a lot of people whose lives she ruined and who are quite capable of committing murder, said Tom Mesereau, Robert Blake's lawyer. Despite the fact that the criminal court acquitted him, on November 18, 2005, a civil jury found Blake responsible for the wrongful death of his wife and ordered him to pay $30 million to Bonnie's children. Robert Blake declared himself bankrupt. Blake married Pamela Hudak in 2017. Hudak has known Blake since the early 90s and testified during the Bonnie Lee Buckley murder trial. Blake was reunited with his daughter before his death and visited his mother's grave with her. Robert died of heart disease in Los Angeles on March 9, 2023, at the age of 89.